I could share a story. We hired a data analyst at the start of this year before COVID, and I put out the application, the blurb around the job, and we got lots and lots of applicants, but a lot of CVs were just black and white, descriptive text on a page. And I think the few applicants that were able to separate themselves from the rest by showing a portfolio of work, showing proof of some work being done, some initiative, it really makes you stand out. I found that hiring process interesting, that not many people actually proved their value prior to coming in. And I think that's something anyone can do, whether they're in sport or not. Or I think it's building a portfolio and being proactive about learning skills without having to be in a job.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. My name is James Grigson, and today I'm joined by Rugby Australia's Head of Analytics. His name is Cathal Garvey. Cathal, thank you for coming on, my friend. You're
very welcome. Always a pleasure.
Where are you in the world, mate? Are you at home? You working from home?
I'm in Sydney. I'm in Sydney here. We're starting to plan for an international season ahead.
Yep.
I was starting to go back into the office a few days a week over the last few weeks, and getting pretty positive about the way things are going. Now I got an email this morning saying that the office is off limits for the next few weeks, so that's a little bit depressing, but we're battling at the moment, but still some great signs for some footy in the months ahead, so getting excited now.
Yeah, absolutely. And you and I had a chat a couple of weeks ago about where that's heading and how that's going. I haven't seen anything in the media. Is New Zealand looking likely? We're gonna have some footy in New Zealand.
We hope so. We don't know the location yet, but it's looking possible, and I hope we can get a Rugby Championship together. So the bringing together of Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and Argentina for a 6-week competition. It's exactly what everyone needs, and it would be brilliant to see some international rugby on the TV for everyone to watch. So fingers crossed. The plans change every few days, James. So
yeah,
it's hard to get too confident, but we're planning, that's for sure.
No, that's good. And silver lining, the domestic rugby's been really refreshing to watch. I heard Ben Moen talking about the style of play and not having to, you can, as a national group of lads, the Australian boys can learn how to play an Australian brand of footy instead of having to combat a New Zealand brand of footy or a South African brand of footy every couple of weeks. What did you think of those comments? I heard Ben make those remarks, and I'd be interested to hear if you had any thought, or if there was any sort of words similar to that or different to that floating around the office.
It's just good to have rugby being played at the moment, James. There's pros and cons to having domestic competition. Obviously, New Zealand has a comp which is a few weeks ahead of us. I think they've done 7 rounds now,
yeah.
And that's been quality as well. So, we don't know what the landscape's going to look like in 2021, but it's great to see it's getting better every week, and there's some great performances being put in. So yeah, we're happy with it at the moment, and looking forward to the games this weekend.
No, you sound positive, and it looks positive. But we'll jump off Australian rugby, and we'll get on to you, my friend, and the purpose of the show. So obviously, judging by the accent, for those that are listening or watching, Carl's from Ireland, and I'm really interested in your journey, mate. So you and I, having worked together a little bit through relationships with your role at Rugby Australia and my role, I saw you. Beginning of our time together, you were a performance analyst for the high performance department, and now you've recently transitioned, or the last couple of years transitioned, to the head of analytics. I really want to take a few steps back to the beginning of your journey, your post-university days, and then your first few roles in and around Ireland. And because I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether it's in performance or analytics or IT or software, the data being the focal point, learning how to communicate data, learning how to express data, learning how to show the right information and then be able to articulate it to certain people is a really fundamental skill that I don't think a lot of people really appreciate it right now. You know, the skill that it has and the benefits that it has in multiple organizations, not just computer software or coding or whatever it may be. So I'm really interested to hear your journey, basically from university through Ireland and then eventually coming over to Australia.
Sure. Yeah, you summed up my role quite nicely, actually, James, and I'll take you through a bit of the background I have. So I studied computer engineering in the University of Limerick in the southwest of Ireland. I graduated in 2004, which seems like a long time ago. But from there, I went into software development, software engineering, started with a medical devices company in Limerick, did about 18 months there. And, you know, straight away, that was a good example of taking code from the start to the end of the journey, the whole software development life cycle. So writing code for people on the line, building the medical devices, and then taking them through the user training at the other side of it. So it was a really good experience straight out of university on how how you develop, but also how it impacts the users.
So you were
at the end of the
you were user facing as well.
Internally, yes. So on the production line, we were explaining how the new software we were building would make their lives easier and enable them to be more productive, basically. So really enjoyed that. From there, I went into a software development role at Intel, and working on microprocessors. So great learnings there with regards to the diligence and the design and how nothing can go wrong in those spaces. So it's test. And again, I think I did nearly 2 years there and great learnings. From there, I moved into a startup up in Dublin called the Now Factory, which has been acquired by IBM in recent years. But that was all around customer experience management when smartphones and 3G networks were becoming ubiquitous at the time, and understanding how people were interacting with their phones, browsing the internet and using different applications that were really just up and coming. And that was incredibly interesting. Got to learn so many skills in that place. I think I worked 6 or 7 years there. And I started in software development, transitioned into a team leadership role, which allowed me to do a lot of business analysis, working with product managers, CTO, salespeople, and building my skills as acting as that bridge between the development, the technology, and the technical skills to the users, the key decision makers in a business. So I really enjoy that role. Back in 2011, my wife and I decided to go and see a bit of the world, and went on the road and ended up in Sydney in the start of 2012. And from there, saw an opportunity in ARU, Rugby Australia at the time, Australian Rugby Union at the time, and as a business analyst. And I thought, this was a perfect role for me. So jumped at that opportunity, and that got me in the door of sports.
Just quickly, is that one of the travel photos behind you there, or is that just a IKEA special? What do we got there?
It's a photo of some islands off the coast of Kerry, the Blasket Islands in Ireland.
Beautiful.
Back from around when we got married. So a bit of travel, a bit of local travel in Ireland.
Who's taking the shot there?
I think Laura, my wife. Yeah.
Well, you hope so.
I'll hide that.
I hope so. So getting into sport. Why sport? Obviously, Ireland's not shy to any sport. But did you have a rugby background? Because I'm interested, right? Like you're going from software development, software coding, not too much of a sports science background. So why was the Rugby Australia job so appealing?
Yeah. Firstly, that is me taking a photo. Sorry, I understood what you were saying. Played rugby all my life. From when I was about 7 through to when I was around 25, and a few injuries made me make the decision to stop. I was playing at a decent level, not a professional level, but always loved it. So the opportunity in sports came about as a business analysis role, which was quite technical, but I felt I was a good applicant for the role, given I knew the domain, I knew the game. and I was working with technology for so long, so it was just married up everything I wanted to do in life in one job. And that's why, that's why maybe I was successful in getting through that interview process at the time back in 2012. And from there, I started working with various data sets in Rugby Australia around membership ticketing, our participants, sponsorship, partnerships, and opportunities, and things like that. And just a great overview and feel for the rugby business. And then in 2014, sorry, James, go on.
No, I was just going to mention, I know it's actually, I found an interesting story when we had spoke about your transition from being a business analyst for Rugby Australia to then going into a performance analyst. So how did that transition come about?
Yeah, so back in 2014, Ewan McKenzie, the Wallabies head coach at the time, gave me a call, and he would have seen me present various data analyses to the executive committee inside Rugby Australia, and he gave me a call and asked me would I be interested in coming on board with the team. And to be honest, James, I thought it was a piss take. I thought someone was winding me up. So I was a bit cagey on the phone when he rang me, but it turned out it was him, and he wanted to give me an opportunity. And it was like a dream job, and it is a dream job. So it was not something I sought after. I didn't think there was a pathway in from what I was doing, but there you go. I mean, it's quite unusual how things turn out in life, but I took the opportunity. Told Ewan at the time that I wasn't sure, that I didn't have a lot of experience in space, but we agreed to give it a crack. And I've been working with the team for 7 years since. So forever thankful to Ewan for giving me that opportunity.
And what was that transition period like, right? So you know the game, you have domain knowledge, you have knowledge with data and how to interpret data, but not so much high performance data. Was it a case of data's data, I can apply my own thinking and we'll be right? Or was there a significant learning period that you had to undertake?
Yeah, I had the framework in place to be able to take information or take data and turn it into information, actionable information. But there was a steep learning curve for sure in all the other aspects of the performance analysis role, from training days to match days to ensure that everybody's able to work really optimally. And there's a lot to it. So it was a steep learning curve, but working with information, working with rugby, it was easy to get passionate and get obsessed by it because you're watching the game you love on a daily basis. But turning that into actionable insight, it was something I had experience in. So it was steep, but I just worked very, very hard to get to the place where I needed to be.
What were some of the tougher data sets to begin working with or begin analyzing? Is there any ones that stick out where you go, trying to relate these two together, or someone's asking me about this and it was tearing you up? Was there anything in particular that was challenging?
Well, that's still a daily phenomenon, James, dealing with that. All the different data sets we have and trying to join them and correlate them and make something actually actionable and visual. That's to this day is a challenge. But at the start in performance analysis, we did our own coding, we collected our own information, but we also took in third-party data. So I think it was just, getting really stuck into that side of things in the rugby data. In more recent years, we've looked at, we might talk about it a bit later, but breaking down the silos between performance analysis and sports science and strength and conditioning and medical and making all this the one story. But I wasn't dealing with that at the time.
Right. Okay. And you'd mentioned to me before that you got the opportunity, and you alluded to it previously, as a dream job because you got to tour with the team. When we've spoken in the past, I haven't necessarily asked too many questions or any stories about that, but is there any, you get to be in that role for a significant period of time, and I'm sure you went on a few tours. Is there any one tour that sticks out in particular?
I think I did 5 seasons on the road, so it would have been 4 or 5 months of the year on the road with the Wallabies, and extremely special. I wouldn't say I loved every minute of it because some of it's very hard, but parts of it I'll never forget. I think Rugby World Cup 2015 was particularly meaningful and memorable for us. We went on a good run to the final, and God, it was special. Yeah, it was incredible. I'll remember that one forever.
some of the experience. I can't even imagine it. It's a similar, the look you had in your eye there is similar to when people start talking about the Olympics. And I imagine, those kind of World Cup Olympics experiences is just something that, very, very, very fortunate to have, and something I'm certainly envious of. So
all ahead of you, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, let's hope. Fingers crossed. Probably just as a spectator. The transition back into head of analytics. So obviously your journey's come through in software development, and then business analyst, and then performance analysis, and now head of analytics. What does that necessarily entail? What is the key requirements for your role?
Sure. So there's a few parts to it. Kind of bridging high performance and the business side of the organization and the code here in Australia. And on the high performance side of things, I guess I'm responsible for data management, all the information flowing in to our systems, trying to bring that into a central repository, a data warehouse, so that we can report on it centrally. That's on the technical side of things. Then on the performance analysis side of things, still working with the Wallabies coaches daily on trying to filter all the information we're collecting, all the video footage that's coming in, and try to make something really visual and insightful and impactful to them in the form of analysis. So that's something I'm still very passionate about. And then on the business side of things, I mean, we started a journey of analytics in 2017, and we had Accenture on as a partner, a technology partner of the Wallabies at the time. So quite fortunate that we were able to lean on some expertise in the field at the time and start building out our vision in that space. Then, like, we were looking at it last year in 2019, and this is where my role started to take on a bit more responsibility across the business. But we built such good capabilities and frameworks and high performance. And on the business side of things, we're collecting lots of information in our CRM and ticketing services, and lots of good data coming in. But we probably could have managed the reporting and the storytelling out the back of it. So at the moment, we're trying to engage the business on the community rugby side of things, membership ticketing, digital experience, and trying to show them what we can do in analytics, so that they can use it on a daily basis to be data informed and really drive our organization forward. So there's a bit there, and sorry, go on.
No, you go, mate. It's fine.
No, there's a few areas to it, and we've quite a small team, so we've built a kind of a roadmap out for the next 18 months, and while it's taken a bit of a hit this year, obviously with the complexities of COVID, we're confident we're going the right direction. That's for sure.
So it's interesting, and one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on is we'll probably have people watching this that might be more data minded, that are in sports science, maybe looking at performance analysis as a career pathway. One of the things that really pricked my ears is as someone who, the reason why I'm doing this show is because when I was 17, I had no idea all these roles existed, right? So,
Nor did I, yeah.
Yeah. Talk to me about the business side. So if you've got somebody who's watching and they may understand basic performance analysis, they may have a bit of a data-centric brain inside of sports science, how can they see, what sort of stories are you trying to portray from a business perspective? Because I'm hoping that maybe someone could watch this and go, oh, okay, well that makes sense to me. Now I want to be a business analyst like Cathal, or maybe I want to try and apply my skill sets to sports science and ticketing, marketing, business side of things. Talk me through a little bit about the stories that you're trying to tell inside of the business of Rugby Australia, and maybe how that business side also has an impact on the performance information that you're collecting as well, and how they relate.
I think firstly, before I jump into that, I think good foundations in data analytics and understanding and being data literate, I suppose, will be an awesome kind of foundation of going into industry or sport or wherever it is. There's so many similarities with managing ones and zeros in a database through to reporting and and making decisions off the back of it. And on the business side of things, you know, we're trying to build for future success with regards to how we're building our data pipelines and joining our high performance data sets with our fans and participants in the country, so that we can make better decisions and ask better questions in the future. I think that's a big thing that's been coming out in the last few months, is that people are getting more engaged, but then being more inquisitive and curious. And that's really a success story straight away. But with our grassroots game, you know, we're starting to really look at the country and where opportunities might be, where we're underperforming, or where we need to put certain schools programs or underage programs that with population growth in certain areas, and just joining up to a lot of demographics. So that's been very interesting, working with our partnerships teams to understand what kind of reach we have, so that they can be proactive in their sales pitches to potential partners. Helping our finance teams manage information a lot better, so they can be more visual. So a lot of different projects at the moment, but as I said, it's quite an engagement process at the moment, to make sure that they can trust what they're seeing, that it's useful to them, so that it can get better and better. But yeah, back to your question, I think learning how to understand data, you can take that anywhere.
Yeah. Do you mind providing an example? It doesn't have to be a real one at Rugby Australia, but for someone watching who's inquisitive about high performance metrics and maybe has a bit of a commercial brain as well, and is wondering how those two can interrelate, and what an organisation such as Rugby Australia would look at in terms of relationship between high performance data and you know, business data. What is a basic example of a relationship that you or another organisation might look at between those two?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a few questions floating around at the moment, like placing of test matches based on demographics, and also weather conditions to, you know, attendances. There's so many things you can join between participants, fans, and the game that's being played, to understand how we can move the right direction as holistically. I don't have anything really insightful to give you on that right now, but I'm hoping we will next time we chat.
No, that's fine, mate. I'm also being a bit selfish with that question as well, because I'm personal interest in it as well. Yeah. So it's an exciting time. I think as I said, we're really concentrating on building the capabilities right now to really do some of that great analytics work in the next 12 months. And the beautiful thing, and also the debilitating thing, is it never stops. There's always going to be more questions. The more you build, the better structures you have, the more data you get. There's always going to be more questions, which is a lovely thing.
That's why we're here.
One of the cool parts about your role that I like, and I've seen you present as well, you have a very nice way of keeping things simple, and you articulate clear and to the point. Was that at all taught to you, or is this something that you've picked up naturally? Because, you know, people that work in data, doesn't matter what industry, stereotypically speaking, might not necessarily have the best presenting skills, and especially, you know, let's forget the fact that you'd be presenting data. You know, you're in some intimidating positions where you're trying to look at the head coach of Rugby Australia and tell him what this data means, and maybe try to inform his decision on where he should go next. Talk me through some of those experiences, and did you have a knack for presenting? Was this a learned skill? Where did you go in your career and think, oh, I can actually combine these two things together and kind of become this, you know, ninja translator of data and performance to start making some change in organizations?
Well, thank you for saying that. Appreciate that. I think it's been something I've just learned and built upon and built confidence with throughout my career. And probably I would think that maybe the different experiences I've had in different industries might have built a bit of range and confidence in that. But it's a constant work on also. It's something that we work on our team. Any piece of information we have, we'll share with each other to ensure that it's actually understandable and meaningful and actionable. And I guess I've learned that through my career, that people aren't always interested in a flashy dashboard that might be interesting but not actionable. So I think I've learned, and I'm through experience working with some great people, some ruthless people that will tell you, that will be critical of what you're presenting. So in the current role, things need to be actionable. They need to affect change, so that, say, on the high performance side of things, that coaches can look at the information and change training so that it can affect change with the athletes, the players, so that we can have a better result on a Saturday night. And I think it's just the constant filtering of what's coming through to ensure that you can make an impact without overcomplicating things.
You've put it very well.
I don't know if that answers your question.
No, you put it very well there. You put it very well. I was trying to think about where I can jump in. You did mention a word at the beginning there, and it was range. And Epstein's book, I don't know if you've read it, it kind of really encapsulates what I see in you and your abilities, right, and your story. So being a bit more of a generalist than a specialist. What words would you have for people making their way through the industry, whether it be in sport or data analytics, but want to have a similar role to you? How would you push them down the similar pathway to you, where you tried a bunch of different things, you traveled to certain places, you got to see different things, or where do you stand on all of that? What would you say to those people?
I think I'm quite fortunate in where I've landed. And there was quite a bit of luck involved. While there's a lot of hard work, I think I was in the right place at the right time. So it's very hard to advise people in that space. I think I'm going through Epstein's book at the moment. I think it's very, very interesting. And, it's validation for me that it's been good to see different things in life and have different experiences. I don't know how to answer it. I think if you know what you want early in life, just go for it and get stuck in. But if you don't, I think getting a lot of experience is a good thing. Is there any way I can develop out that, James? I'm not sure.
No, I think maybe something from people watching. Sport is you mentioned the word a couple of answers ago, ruthless. It's a ruthless business. At times it's a beautiful business, but it's ruthless, and there are going to be some people that will call you out. And you alluded to the fact that maybe you produced some data and some information that wasn't necessarily actionable, and you heard about it pretty quickly. What advice would you have for young people that are starting in sport? They are starting in this beautiful, ruthless environment, and they are learning, and maybe they've gotten their first ruthless comment, and they're kind of a bit taken aback, or they're just about to get into the game. What type of words would you have for those people?
Yeah, I think similar to any industry, if you work hard and build good relationships and get obsessed, you'll excel. So I think that's it. Just really, really working very, very, very hard, questioning everything, but being dependable. I think that's something that I've really seen when I've got people coming through, that they're dependable, that they get the job done. Because sport is a 24/7 job, really. There's no off button. Building relationships, I think. Just working hard, really, James.
Getting after it.
And yeah. And I think for people coming into the industry, then I think you see it a lot. I follow Twitter a lot to see what's going on around the world, and you see more and more people coming from different businesses into sport. So there's always opportunity to get into sport, particularly in my space around the data analytics and performance analysis space. I think sports starting to open up. You see, I think the City Group have recently hired a physicist and lots of people from analytics roles outside of sport. So there's always opportunity there. But there's also in universities some great third level programs there around performance analysis around the world, around sports science. So there's many routes to get in there, but when you're in there, I think it's difficult to get in. When you're in there, you can do well.
As we begin to wrap up, mate, was there anything else that you wanted to get off your chest?
Um, Not really, James. I guess advice for people trying to get into sport. I could share a story. We hired a data analyst at the start of this year before COVID, and we do a lot of work with Tableau and R, and this was focused around Tableau analysis and building out our Tableau online infrastructure and our reporting ability. And I put out the application, the blurb around the job, and we got lots and lots of applicants, but a lot of CVs were just black and white, descriptive text on a page. And I think the few applicants that were able to separate themselves from the rest by showing a portfolio of work, showing a CV in Tableau Public, and proof of some work being done, some initiative, it really makes you stand out. I think that will be a learning. If you look online, there's so many resources and communities out there, whether it's around the data science in R or Tableau, Makeover Mondays and Sports Viz Sundays, and there's constantly data sets being thrown out there for people to get a feel of telling stories with data. And I think I found that hiring process interesting, that not many people actually proved their value prior to coming in. And I think that's something anyone can do, whether they're in sport or not. Or I think it's building a portfolio and being proactive about learning skills without having to be in a job. I think, there's so many good resources and opportunities out there to learn.
That's tremendous, my friend. Thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy Sydney. I know it's a bit chaotic at the moment, and Brisbane and Queensland kind of nearly the same. We had a few cases ourselves break out. But for those watching, if you enjoyed this and you want to subscribe to the channel, you can click down here. If you want to watch our previous interview with the sports scientist for the Collingwood Football Club, Brendan Lazarus, that interview is up here, up there. For Cathal and James, have a great weekend. Thank you for watching.
Cheers.